of being within that 8% because it's intensely personal. It's getting more personal. They're going to discover more information that's going to make them angry. They're out to salvage their reputation. So there's not going to be an easy way to walk away from this and say, okay, let's just call it a day. So I think this is inching towards that percentage of lawsuits that don't settle. We could very well see a trial.
Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds just got exposed in the worst way possible. Their legal circus has completely collapsed. Fake witnesses, bribery attempts, and shady legal moves. Nothing is hidden anymore.
And if you can show the jury that she's lied, juries don't like liars. Trials are about credibility. Trials are about the truth, and juries want the truth. And if you lie to them, they will hold it against you.
But the real twist? Judge Lyman saw right through their Hollywood manipulation, and now their entire case is crumbling faster than Blake's credibility. She wants one set of rules for herself and another for Baldoni and his team. But let's be real, the judge isn't buying it. Blake really thought she could waltz into court, throw around some fancy legal jargon, shed a few fake tears, and walk out victorious. Yeah, no. That plan backfired so hard, she might as well retire and open a bakery, because her career is burnt to a crisp. Judge Lyman, who has the patience of a saint for putting up with this nonsense, finally had enough and called her lawsuit exactly what it is: a PR circus.
The evidence we've seen to support the claims that are made in her complaint, like you see with Justin Baldoni's complaint, where there's extensive documentary evidence backing it up. So her testimony is super important in this case. And if you can show the jury that she's lied, juries don't like.
And here's the thing. Her testimony is crucial. If the jury sees that she lied, it's game over. Juries don't like liars. This isn't a real case or a serious legal battle. This is a full-blown media stunt designed to manipulate public perception. But guess what?
Well, actually, what I said last time is, of the 92-8 split, which is 92% of cases settled and 8 don't, this does meet criteria of being within that 8% because it's intensely personal.
The only person getting played here is Blake herself, because this entire scheme has blown up in her face like an overinflated balloon. But hold on, it gets even worse for her. Just when you thought this case couldn't get more ridiculous, a leaked Ari Emanuel audio recording surfaced. And let me tell you, this isn't just some minor piece of evidence. This is the kind of smoking gun that lawyers dream of. Hollywood's dirty little secret just got exposed on full volume.
It's so much better. And, so I think there could be some argument about whether it was leaked and shouldn't have been leaked and should they have the information or what it may be. But no matter what happens, this is a damning quote. And it really shows. I mean, this dispute, these words that were said.
Emanuel, one of the most powerful agents in the industry, basically admitted that Justin Baldoni was blacklisted, not because he was guilty of anything, but because he had the wrong friends. And by wrong friends, we mean Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, the power couple who thought they could treat Hollywood like their personal playground. Let's break this down. WME, Baldoni's former agency, cut ties with him the moment.
These words that were said by Lively's side had a clear, immediate negative impact on Baldoni's career.
Lively threw her allegations into the public eye, not because there was actual proof, but because Ryan and Blake had the right connections to pull strings behind the scenes.
Him, since he's been doing so well in the PR war, actually affected the damages. But what I think we're seeing now with this quote is WME absolutely got rid of him because of these things that were said. And so now he's got a clear line to get damages for.
But now, thanks to this leaked audio, it's no longer speculation. It's fact. Judge Lyman has solid evidence that Blake's side was actively manipulating the industry to destroy Baldoni's career. And you know what that means? Her entire case is built on lies. The judge sees it, the lawyers see it, and at this point, even her own PR team probably sees it and is looking for the nearest exit. This is quickly becoming one of those lawsuits. That doesn't settle. We could actually see a trial, and if that happens, things are only going to get worse for Blake. And just when you thought it couldn't get shadier, the Freakonomics podcast episode that contained Emanuel's bombshell, audio mysteriously disappeared. Now, I don't know about you, but when the one recording that could expose Hollywood corruption suddenly vanishes, it raises some serious questions. Like, How much power do these people really have?
So if you have somebody who has a significant amount of power in the industry and has the ability to tell stars not to go on your podcast in the future, and has general ability to make life uncomfortable for you and ask for a favor, you're more inclined to do it, right?
If they can make a podcast episode disappear, what else have they covered up? But here's the kicker. This time, they failed. The audio is out, the damage is done, and Baldoni now has a clear legal path to sue for damages. This isn't just a PR disaster for Blake anymore. This is a full-blown
Been a lot less powerful than Ari Emanuel, who would have the power to do that, so that doesn't surprise me at all.
defamation lawsuit waiting to bury her. So, does Ari Emanuel have the power to make things disappear? Absolutely. But let's talk about the real talent on display here. Blake. Lively's Oscar-worthy performance in lying and manipulating the legal system. Seriously, if the Academy handed out awards for Best Actress in a fake lawsuit, she'd be sweeping every category.
Funny in this case, that may be well worth it from a PR standpoint to get your story out there in a litigation privilege context, have the New York Times, print it and have it out there. And when you file the suit, you have your lawsuit out there, you're suing the New York Times and you've told your story in your lawsuit, and you're going to go ahead and get that out there to the public that's going to consume it.
This woman has rewritten her own story more times than a high school student faking a last-minute essay. Blake Lively's original complaint was already laughable, but then, like magic, she suddenly remembered new details and needed a staggering 180 pages to explain them. Let's put that into perspective. Most lawsuits of this kind are around 20 to 25 pages long. But no, Blake turned hers into a Lord of the Rings novel, probably hoping that if she dumped enough nonsense into it, no one would bother to read it closely.
Okay, so I was able to read the amended complaint, which, by the way, it's very abnormal. It's almost 180 pages, 400 and some odd paragraphs. Complaints are not normally that long.
Except people did. And guess what? It's one of the most blatant PR-driven lawsuits in Hollywood history. Legal experts tore it apart, pointing out that most of it isn't even about legal claims. It's just a media stunt disguised as a legal document. Because, let's be real, if you need 180 pages to convince people something happened, chances are it didn't happen.
Skew it kind of a different way. So it kind of makes them look like they're trying to take that video now that it's out and kind of spin it in a different direction.
And let's be real, Ryan Reynolds must be horrified watching this disaster unfold. The man built an entire career on being Hollywood's funny, likable guy. And now, he's linked to one of the most humiliating legal failures in history. They thought their power and connections would let them control the narrative and bury the truth. But guess what? This time, they failed. And everyone sees right through it. Blake really thought she could finesse her way out of this mess by throwing money around. Classic celebrity move. When the lies don't work, start writing checks and hope the problem disappears. But here's the problem. Judges don't play that game, and Lively just learned that the hard way. Her desperation mode kicked into overdrive when her legal team secretly pushed for an attorney's eyes only AEO protection order.
With me on that. And it essentially eviscerates the expert's testimony because jurors are very bright, especially collectively. When they're all together, they all come from varied backgrounds. They're the smartest people in the room collectively, and they generally get the right result.
And for those who don't speak legalese, this basically means she wanted to hide critical evidence from everyone except lawyers. Not even Justin Baldoni or the judge would be allowed to see it. Now, why would someone do that? There's only one logical explanation. She's hiding something. Something so incriminating, so career-ending, that she's willing to bend the law itself to keep it buried.
This does meet criteria of being within that 8% because it's intensely personal. It's getting more personal. They're going to discover more information that's going to make them angry. They're out to salvage their reputation, so there's not going to be an easy way to walk away from this and say, okay.
And guess what? It's not staying buried for long. And let's talk about just how suspiciously specific this whole bribery situation is. Some shady inside source dropped a bombshell, claiming there were 100 million reasons why Lively's team was scrambling to keep this evidence buried. Now, call me crazy, but that sounds an awful lot like a bribe. And not just any bribe, a 9-figure bribe. Imagine being so desperate to erase the truth that you're allegedly willing to throw 9 figures at the problem. This isn't just your run-of-the-mill Hollywood cover-up. This is straight-up judicial corruption territory. But guess what? Judge Lyman wasn't having any of it.
And if you can show the jury that she's lied, juries don't like liars. Trials are about credibility.
The man has been watching Lively's nonsense unfold for months, and he shut it. Down on sight, he basically told her legal team, "Nice try, but the law doesn't work that way." And the best part? He made it crystal clear that the court exists to serve the public, not pampered celebrities who think they can buy their way out of anything. You know it's bad when a judge has to remind you that the legal system isn't for sale.
Trials are about credibility. Trials are about the truth, and juries want the truth. And if you lie to them, they will hold it against you.
But of course, Blake Lively wasn't done embarrassing herself just yet. Since the let's just buy our way out strategy crashed and burned, her team pulled out another classic Hollywood trick, playing the celebrity victim card. They actually argued that because she's famous, releasing certain evidence could cause irreparable harm. Excuse me? Irreparable harm to who? Her career? Her marriage? Her ego? Because the only irreparable damage happening here is the one she's doing to her own credibility.
Blake Lively made, and she lied in their minds about what occurred during that dancing scene because she wasn't aware that there was audio that would maybe explain and give some context to what was happening there. So of course she changes her in her amended complaint. She changes the view of it a little bit.
And just when you think it couldn't get worse, lawyer Brian Freeman stepped in and shut the whole thing down with a single sentence. Just because they're celebrities doesn't mean they get different laws. Translation? Sit down, Blake. You don't get VIP treatment in court. You could almost hear her legal team collectively sighing in defeat. They've tried everything: fake evidence, bribery, playing the victim, and every single attempt has flopped spectacularly. And speaking of flopping spectacularly, let's talk about the fake witnesses, because Lively and her PR team really outdid themselves with this next stunt. After realizing their legal arguments were dead on arrival, they went for Plan Z: invent some anonymous accusers and hope people believe them.
Yeah, I mean, look, you got on Baldoni's side, you have one of the most aggressive entertainment lawyers in Hollywood. On the other side, you have very good lawyers in New York, and they are poised for battle. I don't think they're thinking right now at all about some sort of mediation or some sort of resolution. I think
Yes, they actually rolled out 2 unnamed actresses who claimed they had similar experiences with Baldoni. But here's the kicker. They weren't even named in the lawsuit. No initials. No official documentation. Nothing. Just a vague trust us, they exist. Now, if these witnesses were so important and so credible, why are they literally invisible? Because everyone knows that if they were real, they'd be testifying in court, not getting leaked through Hollywood gossip blogs. Even Hollywood insiders started calling out the BS.
You were Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively's lawyers today. What would you suggest them to do? I mean, if they would listen to you, because I think they probably won't listen to any experts or advisors or lawyers at this point. It doesn't sound like this because they make so many mistakes and bad decisions.
Turns out, multiple media outlets refused to publish some of the accusations against Baldoni because they had zero credibility. And when even the press, the same press that eats up any scandal they can find, won't run with your story, you know it's complete nonsense. Even worse, The Hollywood Reporter, one of the few outlets openly biased in Lively's favor, had to leak the witness information themselves because no real news outlet would touch it. That's right. When even the mainstream media won't back you up, you really have to be a special kind of terrible at lying. At this point,
seat at the table when everybody settles, or you could get into it and just get completely obliterated because lawsuits are not pleasant. But it sounds like you have grounds to file a lawsuit.
Blake Lively is just throwing everything at the wall, hoping something sticks. But guess what? Nothing is sticking. She's so deep in her own nonsense that even people who once supported her are backing away like she's contagious. And if you thought that was bad, wait until you hear the dumbest accusation yet. Because believe it or not, Blake Lively's team is now accusing Justin Baldoni of being too nice. Yes, you heard that correctly, too nice. Apparently, when all else fails, just start attacking people for having good vibes. Lively's PR team actually pushed a Los Angeles Times hit piece accusing Baldoni of having toxic positivity. I wish I were making this up. They literally tried to frame kindness as a crime. One of the actual complaints? He encouraged employees to sign emails with "so much love." Imagine suing someone because their email etiquette was too friendly. What's next? Suing a barista for writing "have a great day" on your coffee cup?
Assumption.
Right.
And it's only to try to take back the narrative that Baldoni's team has done a very good job of, and perhaps the reason they've done such a good job
And it gets even dumber. Another complaint? He gave clothes to homeless people and filmed it. That's right. Helping the less fortunate is now a scandal. We've officially reached the point where celebrity accusations are so ridiculous they sound like bad satire. And
allegedly HR complaints that leaked last week, and they were everywhere, and they were trying to shop around apparently on different.
Let's not forget that Candace Owens absolutely shredded this nonsense. She roasted Lively's entire case by saying, "Imagine living in a world where you can sue someone for being too happy at work." And honestly, that's exactly the level of stupidity we're dealing with. This is insane. At this point, Blake, Lively isn't just losing a lawsuit, she's losing everything. Her credibility, her reputation, and whatever control she thought she had over the media. She wanted to manipulate the narrative, play the victim, and bury the truth. But instead, she's become a punchline. And the worst part? She did this to herself. Her bribery attempt? Failed. Her fake witnesses? Exposed. Her ridiculous toxic positivity smear campaign? Backfired spectacularly. Every desperate move she makes just digs her deeper into this self-inflicted disaster. And now, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are in full-blown panic mode. Their PR nightmare got so out of control that they didn't just hire some crisis managers. They went full government conspiracy mode and brought in former CIA agents to clean up their mess. Yes, you heard that right.
both sides are under strict orders to kill each other, and that's what's happening. Both sides are trying to kill each other, and right now
This isn't just PR damage. Control. This is classified level crisis management. We're talking about the same people who have covered up government scandals, orchestrated political spin campaigns, and buried national security secrets. And now, their mission was to fix Blake Lively's reputation. Imagine how bad things have to be for you to call in literal intelligence operatives just to handle a lawsuit. And here's the kicker. Even they couldn't fix this disaster. That's how deep Blake Lively has sunk. When professional cover-up artists, the architects of deception, the masters of disinformation, can't even make you look good, you know your career is beyond safe.
I mean, they did mention that there were two new women who were willing to testify against Baldoni, that they have been allegedly felt uncomfortable on set, but they didn't name them. But now it's already kind of leaked who they.
But just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, it does. PR insiders just dropped another bombshell. Even Leslie Sloan PR, the firm managing Blake Lively's public image, tried to back out of the case. Let's break this down. Leslie Sloan PR isn't just any agency. They handle some of Hollywood's biggest A-listers. Their entire job is to make celebrities look good, no matter how bad the scandal. They've cleaned up horrific reputations, buried massive Hollywood disasters, and salvaged careers that should have been long gone. And yet, even they wanted nothing to do with Blake Lively anymore.
And so it's not just a lawsuit, it's a PR campaign. The fact that they didn't include the names, in my mind, when I was reading it, made it felt like it wasn't real or it wasn't very credible. And
do you realize how bad things have to be for your own PR team to quit on you? The very people who get paid to handle damage control took one look at this mess and said, nope, this is beyond repair. If your crisis management team sees you as a lost cause, congratulations, you've officially hit rock bottom. And let's not forget just how much money Blake and Ryan have poured into trying to spin this disaster in their favor. They are bleeding cash to control the narrative, but here's the problem. No amount of money can erase reality. When you base an entire lawsuit on lies, manipulation, and Hollywood power plays, the truth will eventually come out. And no PR firm, no media connections, and not even CIA-level damage control can save you.
Getting a good faith belief that the sources are telling the truth, getting corroboration for those sources, and then printing it based on that information that they have. So I think it's still an uphill road. I think, Andy, one of the things that's important to note, though, by suing the New York Times, that is an important PR component of this, right?
Yep.
Because
But Blake and Ryan weren't done making themselves look even more suspicious. Because after the bribery attempt flopped, the fake witnesses collapsed, and the CIA-grade PR cleanup failed miserably, they desperately tried to suppress Taylor Swift's private messages. Now let's pause for a second and ask the obvious question. Why? Why are Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds so terrified of Taylor Swift's texts getting out? What's in those messages that is so damaging, so career-ending, that they are willing to fight tooth and nail to keep them buried?
Freedom of speech, people should be able to say more about you when you're a public person, and that's protected. So it's not an easy lawsuit to bring and win, but it does seem like, based on what they said about you, and then
Legal analysts have already pointed out the obvious. Those messages must contain something that exposes serious Hollywood corruption. We're not talking about casual gossip or embarrassing personal conversations. We're talking about Blake and Ryan using their industry power to pressure executives, manipulate narratives, and potentially influence the case. And the moment they started desperately fighting to keep those texts hidden, they basically confirmed they contained damning evidence. Because if those messages actually proved Blake's innocence, she would be the first one demanding they go public.
Baldoni and his team and what's happening here. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, they need to listen to their lawyers, and they need to resolve this case if possible.
And that's why this isn't just a lawsuit anymore. This is a full-scale attempt to manipulate the legal system. This isn't just Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni. This is about something much bigger. How Hollywood elites use their influence to control narratives, bury scandals, and erase inconvenient truths. But here's the problem for Blake and Ryan. It's too late. The damage is already done. The moment they tried to suppress those messages, the public knew something shady was going on. And no matter how many legal tricks they pull, they can't escape the fact that their credibility is completely shattered. At this point, they've basically admitted to being frauds. They misrepresented themselves, they manipulated the system, and in the court of public opinion, they've already lost. And speaking of credibility being completely destroyed, let's talk about the downfall of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. Because at this point, this case has backfired so spectacularly, it's almost poetic. They thought they could win through PR stunts, media manipulation, and Hollywood connections. They thought they could twist the narrative, make Baldoni look guilty, and walk away unscathed. But what they didn't realize is that the legal system doesn't operate like Hollywood. In Hollywood, they can rewrite scripts, edit mistakes, and control perception. But in court, none of that works. Judges don't care about your curated public image, your red carpet appearances, or your celebrity status. They care about facts, evidence, and the truth. And that's why this lawsuit is a complete disaster for Blake Lively. Because every single strategy she's used has failed. Bribery attempt, flopped, fake evidence, exposed, media smears, backfire.pr team, jumped ship, desperate attempts to hide evidence, blew up in her face, and Judge Lyman, he's not letting her off the hook. He's not falling for her legal games. He sees right through the manipulation. At this point, Blake Lively has two choices: lose in court or settle in the most humiliating way possible. Either way, her career is already in the gutter. This lawsuit just made it official. And trust me, this legal disaster is only getting messier. Subscribe now because you don't want to miss a single exposed lie.